Thank you. We'll call the December 2021 meeting of Green Board of Public Works and Safety to order at 5:30 p.m. Roll call, please, Amanda.
Mr. Rutherford.
Here.
Mr. Hoover.
Here.
Mr. Coleman.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Minutes of regular session of our last meeting of December 6, 2021 have been distributed to members of the board. Any corrections, additions, deletions from staff? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval as presented?
Move we approve the minutes.
Second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. I think I saw Adam Stone on here. Adam, are you here? There we go.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Jan, thank you. Floor is yours.
Great. Awesome. And just appreciate everyone. Let me be electronic today. And is someone going to be, okay, I see someone's driving the presentation. Cool. Okay. So I just wanted to come today and provide a recap of Q3. We are preparing an annual year-end summary as well. But as part of our new initiative to try to provide more timely financials, we have quarter-over-quarter results that we want to share for the sanitation utility this afternoon. So next slide, please. So just as a point of a reminder, the purpose of this is the utility is required by ordinance and by municipal code to do an annual rate review. To do sufficiency of rates. And the way we're looking at this is really in a continuous manner, just to make sure that our plans are up to date and that we're sharing with you all, as well as the executives, the current plans, costs, and forecasts, and then looking at this more timely with regards to rate sufficiency. So that's the main purpose of today, is to provide that continuous rate sufficiency reporting. And today's presentation is intended to comply with the municipal code section that requires that annual rate review. Next slide, please. So the first thing we would look at is operating indicators through the first 9 months of the year. So this is all through September 30th. Active accounts came in just shy of 27,000. Billed usage in gallons was 1.5 billion. There were 2.5 billion gallons of actual treated flows. So the delta there is inflow and infiltration, or unbilled usage. The treatment expense through the first 9 months were just under $3.6 million. And the current rate per 1,000 gallons is $1.4148. When we looked at the billed consumption, so that's the amount of usage that's billed versus the flows. It's actually had been steadily increasing, dropped off a little bit quarter over quarter. It's been increasing nicely over the last couple of years, and is kind of leveling off at 61 to 62%. We're continuing to track that as a efficiency metric. It's not 100% correlated to all the I&I reduction efforts, but when you consider those investments over time, as well as just the billing efficiency, trying to make sure that every account is being billed and being billed accurately, that is a good metric for us to just monitor over time. One thing I would want to, yeah.
So on the bill consumption, the higher the number, the happier we are? Yes. Okay.
That's right. You can think of it almost as a build utilization ratio. It's the amount of wastewater that is flowing through your system that you're effectively billing dollars for.
Thanks.
Good question. And one note is, when we look at the treatment rate, I would just, as we're late in the year, the rate is actually contracted to go to $1.70, almost $1.71 per 1,000 gallons starting next month. So that's a contracted 20% increase year over year, and is part of that phase one settlement that actually is scheduled to increase over the next few years to nearly $2.50 per. So some of the rest of the things that we're looking at here, you'll show that we are really trying to laser in on those effects because they're critically, it's a critical assumption relative to the rates and charges as well. So next slide, please. So when we look at the actual treatment cost and the rates, that's the largest expense and budget line item by far, and it's the one that's growing at the fastest projected contract and contracted rate, even farther than salaries and pensions. Is so year to date through September, you can see the rates, the flows, and the expense versus our forecast. And the current rate study is a rolling 5 years, so it goes out to 2025. So you can see where we were at through the third quarter relative to those. When we forecast those annually, we're actually looking okay in gross dollars, but when we look a little closer, Citizens is actually lagging on bills too. So when we adjust for that, we're coming in much closer on the expense side as well. The three charts are just showing historical relationship between rainfall, the amount of flows treated to Citizens, and then the actual dollars billed. So, you can see where there's large rainfall events, there's about a month later, we start to see the increase in expense dollars as well. So they're roughly correlated. And then obviously the flows and the treatment expense are nearly 100% correlated relative to the flows that are being processed by Citizens, and then ultimately the billed expense. So I know there's a lot in here, and I'll take questions on this part at the end, but that's just something we're going to continue to track to just try to make sure again that those I&I investments are starting to bend that, as well as track that treatment expense over time as it is scheduled to increase relative to the contract settlement, as well as just increased treated flows with the result of new homes and businesses coming online as well. Next slide, please. So as far as through Q3, as far as the operating and capital budget of the utility, it had only spent 52% of its budget through 75% of the year. You can kind of, in the far right-hand column, you can see the percent spent by budget category. A lot of the savings were in salaries and wages, with some unfilled positions, as well as in capital, in some cases supplies. After speaking with the city controller and going through this presentation with his office, one of the challenges right now with inflation and things costing more, it's also just availability. I know a lot of you probably have seen that in your personal lives or businesses as well. The utilities being impacted by that as well. So while there's the budgetary resources to maybe acquire a piece of equipment or order in the service, actually getting it executed and getting it delivered has certainly had an impact on the spend plan. So certain expenditures are being stretched out purely from an availability perspective. Next slide. So looking at revenue, this year there was a scheduled rate increase that went into effect for all service accounts February 1st through the year. So we're seeing that crossover. So revenues up year over year 21%. Expenditures, as we just looked at, are actually down year over year. They're down about 30%. And then when we look at revenue by type, each class is seeing approximately about the same revenue increase, just because the underlying rates did increase. But you can see residential still largely the largest single customer type, followed by commercial accounts. The other chart I would point out here is the one on the top right. When you look back and you look at residential again is the number one customer type and revenue service type, and you can see quite a bit of disruption last spring and summer with COVID, and a lot of that was the immediate work from home and disruption and all of that, and ultimately that has somewhat normalized, and over the last few quarters is starting to smooth back out, as you'll see there. So while there was quite the disruption last Q2 and last Q3, that has seemed to start to smooth out. So both residential and commercial are starting to find new patterns there as well. So again, the major allocations are about 3/4 of the customers are residential, followed by about 24% or so in commercial, with industrial and public being the minor groups. Next slide, please. So the trends, we look at this over time. So this is dating back from month over month data. This is all expenditures as well as all revenues. And in this case, you can see right now the revenues are trending higher than expenses. That is both in the plan as well as just a byproduct of the budget lagging a bit. So in this case, you can see kind of the large peaks and changes with regards to the expenses. A lot of that has to do with the expenditures and kind of debt service aspects of when the timing of those are recognized. But in order to try to give as much of a transparent picture as we could, this does include all expenditures and all revenues. So it's all items through, and we'll continue to monitor this to try to make sure that none of these reverse. Next slide. And then with regards to the treasury or cash on hand, through September 30th, there was $9.6 million in cash, $2.8 million in investments. Due to the debt service that's outstanding, there's a minimum reserve of approximately $3.6 million, and you're well in excess of that. And the budgetary reserve, which is more of an internal metric, it's looking at how much liquid resources you have relative to your budget. You have about 60%. So in other words, you have about 60% of your budget funded at any time relative to cash. And we have a few other different kind of fund types. Some are more restricted than the operating account, but all of these are listed out, and you can see have actually been increasing in balance over the last 2 quarters as well, and since January over to the right. And again, it's simply the fact that the revenues have increased and the expenses are at this point lagging the revenue growth. So that differential is increased the fund balance. Next slide, please. And then this is the second to last slide. This is really what this whole report is trying to provide, is more of a periodic update relative to the 5-year rate plan that was adopted by council earlier in the year. And so what this is looking at is the first chart on the left is looking at cash on hand versus the planned amount of cash in the rate study, the actual 5-year rate study. And the green amount is actual, the blue is year-end 2021 estimates. So you can see that as of the end of September 30th, you were just over the cash budget, if you will, of what we were hoping to have by the end of this year. So that is good. The chart on the right is actually looking at the planned revenue and planned expense versus actuals. So in this case, the solid blue line that goes up is the anticipated or forecasted revenue. The gray line is the forecasted expense. The glowing orange line is actual revenue year to date, and the glowing yellow line is actual expenditures. So the way that how I interpret this is we are seeing really good revenue results to plan. I mean, we're really right on where we were forecasting to be. And expenses are lagging the plan, and that's a known item, and it's something it's a reality of trying to get goods availability right now. And it's something we will have to continue to monitor that along with the cash balance as well. So we're going to continue to update both of these charts as we go quarter over quarter, so that we can see how we are ahead or behind of the plan, and then make course corrections as we go, or make recommendations, I should say, to that plan. And then the last slide is the updated capital improvement plan. This is constantly being looked at and being updated based on a variety of those different factors. So the blue is any edits since your last present quarterly, and you can see a couple different things. We've pulled forward the utility director and finance teams have decided that advancing the construction and inspection on the treatment cost makes sense based on those trends. And then they've also kind of reworked the prioritization with their replacement plans. So they're now looking at placing a TV truck in 2022 and pushing out the need for a replacement sewer cleaning sheet by a fiscal year. So as of this time, we've kept the cash need to fund the capital the same and constant, while at the same time trying to leverage low interest costs with capital leases and bond issuances. So I know that was a lot of information. I'm happy to take any questions, but as well as any suggestions for how you want to see this in the future. But we hope that gives you a good, complete picture of the sanitation utility, and I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
So Adam, the very high level executive summary is that things are well.
Yep, I would say that's correct. Things are well, and as of right now, you're either on or ahead of the plan, which is good. And we do have we've got the rate study ordinance 2050 had periodic kind of inflationary adjustments each year, and the first of those will go into effect next January as well.
Thank you.
Other questions for Adam? Adam, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Have a nice day. Merry Christmas.
Same to you. Chief.
Good evening. I am here to ask for approval to purchase 2 new Harley-Davidson motorcycles. The purchase will be a combination of trade-in of our old bikes. One is a 2011, one's a 2009, and the remainder will be paid for out of our deferral fund, which is not reverting.
How much are those?
Well, I'm glad you asked.
Equip them too somewhat.
Yeah, so
Just curious.
these are the 2022 California Highway Patrol paint scheme Harleys. They are delivered, everything included except the police equipment is $18,285 per bike. We've been given a rough estimate on the trade-in values that we'll get for the 2 bikes we're trading in on them. The 2011, they're quoting us an estimate of $7,500 trade-in value. The 2009 is $6,000 trade-in value. And then the complete equipment package for each is $10,242.19. So after all is said and done and the trade-ins applied, we'll be paying about $44,000.
Chief, you get these locally?
Nance Harley out of
Down south.
Denver.
Questions from Chief?
I don't know if they'll approve. I'll second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good evening. Have a good Christmas.
You too.
Chief, while you were here, did you have any of your folks that went down Indiana Task Force, or is they all?
No, that is strictly a firefighters
Fire
task force.
Okay, thanks. Next, is Randy Richter with Cruise Consulting for Peterman Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. Randy, are you with us? Anybody see him up
He's
there?
on there.
Yeah, he's on. There you go.
There we go. Okay. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Randy Richter with Cruise Consulting, 7384 Business Center Drive, Avon, Indiana. So what we're looking at doing is we're going to recombine lots 3E and 3F of Precedent South Business Center into one lot. So we're looking at vacating the existing ingress egress easement between those two lots, and then also reducing the ingress egress easement between lots 3D and 3E down to a portion where it only extends to the building setback line due to some outdoor storage that's going on that lot.
Daniel, do you have anything out of the ordinary for this one? Actually, there's two issues we're doing, correct? Or two recommendations we're making to the council.
There are two
separate. Sam, nothing, anything else other than what's already been presented to us for this? We have been prepared for us two recommendation memorandums. We would authorize the mayor to sign if we were so inclined with respect to these easements. Questions for Mr. Richter or any staff?
Standard, I would move that we approve the request as presented and authorize the mayor to sign
For both of them.
for both.
Thank you. Second. Okay. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank
Randy.
you all. Have a Merry Christmas.
You too. Next, we're going to do another encroachment request. Eric Williams, Stonefield Engineering. Mr. Williams, are you with us?
Hi, all. This is Kevin Heffernan of Stonefield Engineering stepping in for Eric Williams. He
Okay.
was unable to make it.
No problem. Tell us what we're doing here.
Yeah, so we're the civil engineers for this project. What we're looking for here is to propose a monument sign and parking lot up along Smoky Row Road. Our project site is 1565 Smoky Row, an outlot of the, I believe, the Kroger development over on our left side. We're just looking to put a roughly 7.5 foot long monument sign within the existing platted 30-foot wide sanitary easement along our northern boundary.
Kevin, Jeff Weaver of the city has prepared a memorandum for us with respect to this request. And it had 5 conditions or recommendations. Have you seen that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I actually have the conditions in front of me. The first condition would be that the encroachment agreement be prepared by the legal department, executed by the owner of the parcel and the Board of Public Works and Safety, to be recorded by the owner of the parcel.
I'm assuming that's okay.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
The second condition would be, per the recommendation of the sanitarian superintendent, that the monument sign be relocated 5 feet further south. We're amenable to that as well, sliding the monument sign to be 10 feet away from the center of the sanitary sewer.
Okay.
The third condition would be the monument sign in the parking lot shall not disrupt the flow of stormwater, which we are amenable to. We have double checked all our stormwater and grading plans. Number 4, should work within any easement be necessary by any of the utilities for the city, the owner shall be responsible for removal and replacement of the monument sign and or parking lot at the owner's sole expense, which we are amenable to. And lastly, Indiana 811 is notified prior before any construction.
You probably just overlooked it, but on condition number 4, it's also that the owner would hold the harmless the utilities of the city for any damage to any of their property, of that sign or the parking lot. I assume that's part of your acceptable condition if we pass that.
Correct, sir.
Any questions for either staff or for Kevin? Is there a motion to approve then subject to those 5 conditions?
I move that we approve the request to the encroachment request subject to those conditions as outlined in the report. Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Thanks, Kevin. Have a good evening and a good holiday.
Thank you all, you too.
Next is Lions Park. Donna Smithers, are you with us?
Yes, this is Marty Spees filling in for Donna.
Okay.
I'm with Northpoint Engineering and Surveying. And we are here today for requesting acceptance of the performance and guarantee and execution of inspection and testing agreements.
The only condition suggested to us by Paul Pioni, the city, is that we would approve these subject to receipt of the revised performance guarantees and then review and approval of those by the legal department and engineering division. Is that correct, Daniel?
Yes.
Any problem with those, Marty?
No, we had a conversation with Paul earlier today. I was made aware of that and we don't have any issue with that.
Okay. Well, I'll move for approval of that to accept the performance guarantees, accept and execute the inspection and testing agreements and ratify the upfront fees, subject to receipt of the revised performance guarantee and approval by the legal department and engineering division.
Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you, Marty. Have a good
Yes,
evening.
thank you and Merry Christmas to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to turn to Brighton Estates. Gary Carpenter from Grand Communities.
This is Joe Meyer with Co-Engineering, representing Gary Carpenter and Grand Communities on Brighton Estates. Can you hear me?
Good evening, Jeff.
Hi.
I take it you've seen Paul Pioni's memo of today's date, listing some 4 recommended conditions to approval, have you not?
Yes, I have.
Are those things all okay, Joe?
Yeah, there's, I believe there's a couple of minor changes to a couple of the guarantees. And then they're going to hold the plat until they finish putting in the streetlights. I believe that's only 2, correct?
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Daniel, that works for you?
Yes, the conditions on the memo.
Okay.
I move for approval of those conditions.
Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you and Merry Christmas,
Good
everybody.
evening, buddy. Have a good evening.
All right, see you later.
From the audience, I understand Mr. Jones wishes to.
Yes, for the record, Christopher Jones, Stormwater Superintendent. Got a couple stormwater citation appeal forms on presented to the board. First one is citation number SW 2021-0008-2. The owner's Music Management Company. Property address is 714 Connors Drive, Greenwood. The citation is for failure to maintain approved B&P. The company has repaired the, or they fixed their issue. We have no objection to removing of this citation.
Does that include waiving the fees, Chris?
Yes, I would also not object to the removal of the second citation. They paid the first citation.
Questions for Chris? Thoughts, comments? No, this just came in.
I'd move for approval that waiving the fee and
Closing out the citation.
citation.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Second.
All right, so the second citation appeal is for citation number SW 2021-0010-1. It's South Park Business Center Owners Association. This is the South Park Business Center tract. They've requested an extended time to repair the pond. They also provided a letter along with meeting minutes requesting time to raise the capital to make the repairs. We have no objection to suspension of fines to include the current citation for $500 until July 1st. Give them until July 1st of 2022 to make those said repairs.
Questions for Mr. Jones? Or relevant motion?
So they've not ignored your,
They have not ignored us. They just need some time to raise the capital. And it's not in any danger of a public roadway or any health or safety issues at this time.
I would move that we approve the request as presented.
I will second that. Further discussion?
I just want to be clear, you want to hold this fine open to make sure they do the work before you actually waive that? You're not asking to waive this $500, right?
No, we're asking to go ahead and remove the fine at this time.
Okay. I have to make sure I get the motion right.
So that you're waiving the fine and suspending the time when they have to
Until
complete this.
July
July
1st.
Okay.
Yes, that's part of my
That'd be
motion.
my second as well. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks, Chris.
Now, if they don't do anything by July 1st, we can go back and read.
Correct.
Kind of like a combo.
All right.
I hope it's not. Anyone else in the audience, either in the audience or online, wish to address us? Okay. Mr. Hudson, will come use the IDM compliance plan status update.
We're current on our reports and we have no issues with IDEM right at this time.
Good to hear. Your status attests.
First up is a contract with Business Art Design for adoptive spot signs. And these are similar to the contracts that you have previously approved for the Business Art Design. This particular contract is $946.
This will be for the mayor's signature. I'll move for approval and authorize the mayor to sign on our behalf.
Second.
Further discussion?
How many signs are there?
It's just 2 signs.
Just 2? Okay.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next up are consideration of outdoor lighting agreements with the Johnson County RMC. The first is Cherry Tree Walk, Section 5. These are 11 poles for a total of $138.60 a month.
And is this a ratification? Isn't it? Mayor's already signed off on this.
Yes.
I'll move to ratify the approval of this agreement for Cherry Walk.
Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Next up is McCormick Estates, Section 2. These are 3 poles for a total of $37.80 a month.
I'll move to ratify that.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next up are consideration of community development block grant funds. These are federal money that we serve as the conduit for. The first is for the Johnson County Community Foundation for $10,000, and we'd ask that you authorize the mayor to sign.
So moved.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
The second is for Bridges Alliance of Johnson County. This is also for $10,000 and for the mayor's signature. May not be familiar with Bridges Alliance, but they are a mentoring program to help young adults enter the workforce.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next up is consideration of memorandum of agreement for low-income household water assistance program. We will be the beneficiary of this. We have residents and non-residents who are users of our utility unable to pay their bills. This is a state program where a third-party vendor will determine the need of the resident, and then when the third-party vendor decides that a resident qualifies for the program, then we will receive a check from the state with instructions on how to apply the money.
Is this the first year we've done this, or?
I believe so. I think it's a program.
I'll move that we approve this.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Daniel, Bainbridge.
Two items, and one is a walk-on, short walk-on after this first item. For Bainbridge, essentially, there was originally an SAF credit for Preserve at South Lake Section 7 through 12. The developer was required to install an upgraded or upsized sanitary sewer main, which was done. In that credit agreement, there was some language that if there were still funds, construction costs to be recouped, that a 15-year law agreement could be entered. And that, in fact, is what happened in terms of construction costs still available to be recouped. So sanitation, legal, and engineering had discussed this. That's the recommendation to the board that need to authorize city staff to prepare a 15-year lost sewer service special agreement and authorize the mayor to sign on the board's behalf. Once all items are reviewed and approved by legal, sanitation, and engineering for Bainbridge South Lake LLC.
I would move that we approve as presented.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Walk on.
And then this actually, I guess just a quick little background on this. This is for Grand Vista subdivision, section 1. You actually approved this back at the Board of Works November 1st meeting. This was for a performance bond for erosion control. At the time, we had the value, we just didn't have the actual bond number. So that was not entered into that meeting's meeting minutes. So I just wanted to read that bond number today. So that would be bond number SU 1176965, and that's for Grand Vista subdivision section 1 performance bond for installation of erosion control at Grand Vista subdivision section 1.
So we don't need to take any action.
No
Just
action.
read
It was
into
just
the
read.
record.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Wright. Good evening.
I'm stepping in for Greg tonight.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Bad.
I saw him up there, so I figured he was too.
Oh, I didn't realize he was even on there. Well, I guess they'll let me take it away.
Back 1,000 or something tonight.
So we only got one item. It's a consulting agreement for Milliman. Basically, they do actuarial services. They provide actuarial services that relate to our pension for our financial reporting. So we have them do it every year. I think this is like the 5th year we've used them. It looks like this is a fixed fee arrangement of $3,200. So seeking approval for that.
This is for the mayor's signature. I'll move for approval.
Second.
Further discussion? No, say aye. Aye. Motion passes.
Thanks, guys.
And we have some carryovers we have to address. Is that, Amanda, is that something you're gonna tell us, Jared, Greg?
What do we got? We got another item on here?
Well, it's not on the agenda, but we understand we had some, since it's the last meeting of the year.
General fund carryovers. I have it here, Jared.
What you got? Just need to, do we need a presenter?
Yeah, it's asking to.
Okay,
And a total one.
gotcha. Can you see it on the agenda?
Yeah, I missed it on there.
Okay, so it looks like we have some carryovers that we're looking for approval. And for, let's see, Board of Public Works, we've got 25,000 is what I'm seeing. Oh, wait, no, it's wrong page, that's first. So actually, it's 1,065,562.
Back to 25,000.
It's a big, quite a big difference, but this other page has a total too, but I didn't get a look at this before, so sorry.
I think we've all, the three of us have all reviewed all those
Okay.
beforehand, so.
We just wanted to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
I was like, that's one on the agenda, come on.
So I'll move that we approve the carryover claims as presented. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks, Jared.
I'll move for approval of the claims.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We'll stand adjourned then at 6:09 PM. Thank you all. I'll have a Good holidays. Merry
You
Christmas.
too.